Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Tenney. I'm coming to you from my fabulous studio here in Las Vegas with our weekly community live stream Q&A available on Facebook. YouTube is the best venue for us, Twitter and LinkedIn. We always have our very, very special guest, Brian Lee, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. And if you're new to our weekly live stream, we start with Debrief, and then we answer any questions that you may have or want Brian and I to help you. So we do debrief, housekeeping, and then we answer questions. So Series 7 debrief, nothing surprising here, Brian. They had a feasibility study. I highly recommend that you take a sheet of paper, fold it in half, and on one side write all the terms associated with GOs, the other side, all the terms associated with revenue, because a lot of the muni bond questions are the except format. All the following are GO associated with GOs except, or all the following revenues except. So should have got that. Always shows up in all the exams, the difference between the cost basis of a gift as versus the cost base of securities are inherited, right? So if it's a gift of stock, the person who receives that assumes my cost base. You got a question on buying a put for protection? This is all standard stuff, so no surprises here. Buying a put for protection. He got a U.S. company exporting to Canada, no problem, right? We got our Epic, our memory aid device. I will link in the replay some videos I think might be helpful for some of these things he saw. Again, no surprise. Components of the spread and participants in an underwriting. Almost always you get a question like a selling concessions a half a point. Your firm sold 50,000 bonds. What was the compensation? Exactly. No surprise. Parity. I can't imagine any draw on Series 7 in which you're not going to have to calculate parity. Can't be fumbling around with that. I think of TANs, BANs, and RANs as the muni equivalent of borrowing against receivables. He had a BAN question. A bond anticipation note you get from your underwriter as a municipality. I think of it as like a cash advance. I say to JP Morgan, if I'm the state of California, I know your underwriting is $2 billion worth of bonds, but can I have 500 million now? JP Morgan says, not a problem. Here's 500 million. But when we place the bonds, we're going our 500 million is a little extra, a little VIG, a little interest. TANs are also on the exam. So make sure you got TANs and RANs and TRANs, all of those. Good job. This has been showing up. This one disappeared, Brian, I think, on debrief I received. And lately it's been showing up pretty consistently, error in execution versus error in price. So error in execution, the broker-dealer is liable. Error in price reporting to the customer is liable. So that's pretty standard fare. He had a limited durable power of attorney. So limited means I can only make investment decisions for you. I can only churn your account. No, I'm sorry. Trade your account. I can't withdraw monies and securities. And durable means it actually survives your legal incapacitation. I had to calculate current yield. No surprise. I had to know DPPs. Partnerships are not liquid. The biggest debrief is to remember 65 on June 12th. The passing score is going down to 70%. And Brian, you were right. I'm getting all kinds of urban myths that it's going to get harder. It's done to do easier. Both Brian and I have a podcast. In fact, this live stream is available as a podcast on Spotify as well as here on YouTube. And Brian and I sometimes do collaborative things. He puts it on his, and I put it on mine. And I'm trying to talk him do some more stuff as well. Evening classes. We will be doing a advanced options class that's $60. It's Thursday, June 15th, 4:30 p.m. On that same link, there are free overtime sessions. There's one tonight. It's already capped and done, so no new admissions for this evening. And if you are a paid student tutoring or a class, you get free office hours. And we did that yesterday, and I'll put another one up next week. If you want to reach out to Mr. Brian, there's his email. Yeah, Brian.
I got a question. That 4:30 p.m. is that Pacific time, sir?
It's Las Vegas time, baby.
Yeah. Okay.
Las Vegas time, 4:30 Pacific time. Good question, Brian. Brian has been kind enough to provide us with a 20% discount to his content. That discount code is Guru20. And Kaplan has been kind enough to provide us with our viewers with a 10% discount. Obviously, 20 is better than 10. So, better deal there with Mr. Teskey. I teach Kaplan classes. My Q2 schedule is 66, June 21st through 23rd. I'm teaching the Series 9, June 15th. I'm teaching the Series 10, June 30th. In Q3, I'm teaching the 24, July 17th, SIE August 7th, Series 7, August 14th, 66, September 8th. We conclude each of our live streams with a drawing, and tonight a drawing will be free admission to that advanced options class. If you already are a guru in options or already passed, you can assign that to somebody else you'd like. You can share it. You can do with it what you will. So to claim that after we're drawing, you can just send me an email. I'll tell you how to do that after we conclude the drawing. Housekeeping. Best way to find your content on my channel is find your series, work from the playlist. Don't go to the video menu because there's 500 plus videos. You won't find anything. So that or the search bar. So today, again, somebody said parody. I said, why don't you put parody in the search bar? And all the videos on convertibles and parody will come up. They will come up. I promise you. Like magic, they will appear. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started with answering some questions. Let's get that done. Yeah, let's get that done. And boom. And it looks like we have John failed a 63. Man, that hurts. I think the challenge on 63, by the way, Brian said I have some technical issues on my end, so we're just going to play through. And if we have a glitch, if I fall off the stream, I'm working my way back to you, or we'll just call it a night, depending on how bad it gets. I don't know what's up with it happened on my booking page too, Brian. It was telling me that I had tutoring that was different than the Zoom invite. It was a mess. Anyways, John, I'm sorry to hear that is a misfortune. I will link to my 5 steps to take after you fail. I have a podcast episode called You Failed, Is It Over? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. But I will post that for you. And I think Brian, the challenge on 63, there's just not a whole lot of performance opportunity. So, I mean, you start missing a couple questions on that 63, you can really be in some hot water pretty quickly. What do you think, Brian?
Definition of persons, agents, IAs, IARs, got to get them all straight.
Yep, sure do. So, and then we have Jennifer. She's taking her 24. She's going to be a general securities principal on June 9th, second try. I like that. Scoring high 70s. Yeah, I like that. You want to have a margin of safety. The higher your practice test scores go, the more margin of safety you have. Any last minute recommendations? I just posted a little video on Trace. People tell me they're seeing Trace. Jennifer, check that out. That's the trade reporting and compliance engine. Dual side reporting within 15 minutes. FINRA immediately releases that. So I have a little quick ones for you that I would check out on your 24. And then you might want to do on the channel, there's a 24 practice test. You can watch me explicate the Kaplan one, and you can get a good idea there. So, yeah, our Reddits, feel free to join our Reddits. Jennifer, I like our Reddit communities. Here's why, particularly as a 24, Jennifer. Everybody knows who I am on the Reddit, but you get to remain anonymous. And I think that's a great thing because particularly 24, Jennifer, we had somebody ask a 24 question. It was like, uh-oh. It's a good thing FINRA doesn't know who's asking such a question because it's kind of a red flag, the nature of the question. So I kind of like that. I think the cool kids hang out on Reddit. I'm not a big Facebook fan. And I like that you can remain anonymous and I answer questions, get support. We have our Series 7 for the SIE and Series 7. They're I call them sister communities because it's our crowd, so to speak. Our Series 24 for 9s, 10s, and 24s. Series 66 for 63s, 65s, and 66s. And our Series 6 for Series 6 test takers. So those are our Reddit communities. Feel free to join us over there. There's a lot more activity there than there is on the channel because here on the channel, I appreciate you guys. Can you believe it? We're coming up on 2 million views. It's just crazy. We'll probably have 20,000 subscribers. And I try not to drip too much on you on the channel because, I'm like, I don't like getting dinged and pinged all the time. So I, Jennifer, give myself permission on Reddit to do that. So on Reddit, I let loose. I'm there, there all the time. Erica, welcome to the live stream. Erica's working hard on our 66. We ran in. I'm going to explicate that question, Erica. We ran in yesterday in the office hour. We ran into a hellacious question. I'm going to send it to you, Brian, and it just defeats your frustration we have. about whether it's Kaplan in this case. Kaplan is less guilty than past perfect, but they're asking you to do all kinds of math that you're really not going to encounter on the test. So Eric and I were doing some practice questions in the office hour, and we ran into that one. I'm like, come on, crazy. Hi, Jose. Thanks for joining us from LinkedIn. I love it when people join us from our other platforms. Well, Blake, as I said, I will post my You Failed, Is It Over podcast episode with 5 steps to take after you miss the mark. I know that's, hurts. And a lot of very successful people in our business have suffered that initial misfortune. So, you just got to pass 2 tests now, Blake. You got to pass the test and a test of resiliency. That test of resiliency is actually more important. I don't know about your thoughts, Brian, but boy, I get so aggravated in the Reddits, Jennifer, when people come on the Reddit and they start blaming their test prep vendor or blaming somebody else instead of taking ownership of missing the mark. Now, it depends on your score as well. But we had a guy, Brian, in our Reddit community who was saying he got like a 50-something, and he was blaming his test prep vendors. I'm like, finally, I just had to say, listen, you need to own this thing. Nobody wants to hear you complaining about a test prep vendor that everybody knows is legit. If you got a 55, that's kind of on you. So we're not doing 2 drawings today, Erica, but like I say, we'll make sure you get whatever help you need between now and test time. We'll have another office hour next week sometime. And Miami, Florida. Oh, man, your Heat, Jose. Those Miami Heat. I'm going to miss the game tomorrow. And so,
and/or Florida Panthers.
Those Panthers, they need, well, the Panthers aren't doing so well, but the Heat are doing pretty good. 66 and super nervous. Super nervous is not helpful. So, Lindsay, if you can, try and keep the nervousness to a minimum. Let the test come to you. Be the test. 73 on STC, I think, is a more than likely chance you're going to pass. STC is a little harder. Starting with state registration, that's not enough to kill you on the 66, Lindsay. I mean, if you tell me because you failed because of state registration, I'm going to say you had bigger problems elsewhere. How about you, Brian? You think state registration is material to her success?
Yes.
Okay, well, Brian disagrees with me.
I do.
Well, we disagree every now and again.
I think it's 7 to 10 questions. That's
okay. Well, Brian has Lindsay. So here's what I always tell people. This is how I go about it. Brian has a flow chart. I just do it this way. I call it the cast of characters. So, Lindsay, when I read a question, the first thing I'm going to look at is, are they asking me about a broker dealer or an investment advisor? Because the answers are going to be substantially different. So I use my own little internal flow chart. Brian actually has a formal version of he calls it a cheat sheet, but it's pretty similar, right? This flow. Once you decide, are you being asked about a broker dealer or an investment advisor? Now, by the way, they might not tell you. They might give you a hint like agent means it's broker dealer, right? If it's an investment advisor, the second thing I'm going to determine is it federally covered or not, right? I have a video called Who's Your Daddy? And it's basically that. I mean, you're not going to belong to both as an investment advisor. You're going to belong to one or the other. Now, once it's a state, now that's when you get in the weeds. Now, I got to tell you, Brian is a bigger jerk as the real jerk. So he's got in his practice questions. I think he's got 3 or 4 in his practice one where he's got state B and state A and state M. And so, if you don't catch that the beginning of his question, he says it's federally covered, then all that becomes meaningless. The only thing then is if you're an investment advisor of a federally covered advisor, do you have a place of business? Period, full stop. That's it. Now, if it's a state, then you get into all that de minimis and all that other stuff. So that's how I go about trying to establish what the question is about. Do you have anything to add to that, Brian?
No, that was a pretty good sum for 25 seconds.
Exactly. That's where the live streams are sometimes. But I will link, Lindsay, what I do in the replays is I link to a video based on that. So I will link to my video called Who's Your Daddy? And it's just that. It's, deciding whether it's state or federal. I did. You can find that on the channel. Brian gave us permission to do that. And Erica, it's there. Brian also gave me permission. I haven't done this yet, but he gave me permission to use his quick notes. Are pretty cool. So maybe I'll try and whip out his cheat sheet and maybe walk you through that. Maybe I'll use it in a tutoring session, see if I can get somebody's permission to put it live up on the channel. But yeah, you can find Erica 66. You can find one I explicated with Vanya on live. I had a student let me do one live, but there's a Kaplan. And I'm not a big fan of Mometrics, but they let me do it, so I put it up there. So I think you got a couple Kaplans, you got a Test Geek. So you definitely have some practice questions there. As I always say, Lindsay, Erica, I think Brian's practice tests are the best exams in terms of correlation. And so when somebody buys Brian's, all in on Brian with the videos, everything, about $100. But what I tell them to do when they get the quick notes is put that practice exam away. And what I tell them to do is use that as their final kind of green light. So if they're testing Friday, I say, why don't you do Brian's like Wednesday? And then we'll have a pretty good thing. I had a guy, we did it Friday. He got 67 on Brian's. I said, okay, so that's a fail. Had that been the test, you would have failed. But good news, you're testing Monday. Do you think we can find some points between now and Monday? And good news, he did. And he passed. So I like that in terms of the correlation to the actual exam. So that would be what I recommend. The other thing I tell people, Lindsay, to do, if you just want listen, I don't know how people get confused about this. If you just want the PDF of that practice exam, you don't want the $40 PDF where he has some sample questions and his quick notes. You can get that for about $20. Now, whether you get the $20 version or you get, all in or 40, the highest level, you get all Brian's stuff. So that's what I mean by all in. But what I also have people do, Lindsay and Erica, is I take it, have them turn it into poor man's flashcards. So what I have them do is El Marco on the actually dead tree version of Brian's practice test, El Marco out the wrong answers and highlight the right answer. And what I tell them to do is the night before and morning of, just read Brian's questions and his right answers is a good way to get your flow going. Because most people don't wake up immediately and start thinking NASA. That's just not a natural kind of a circadian rhythm. So I'm aware this isn't what this is for. So if anyone is given, how would you suggest a high school student go about getting a foot in the door? Well, listen, I got to tell you, I think internships. I just was tutoring a guy today, and his son got an internship in the NBAs in NBA Africa. I go, wow, what an internship. I'd be focused on learning and not money. And I think the best foot in the door, I would think for a high school student is when I was young, I was very young when I got in the business, is find some broker and offer to, help him out, work for him or her. Say, hey, you need somebody to go get your coffee. You need somebody to come in after school and, push papers around or whatever. I think that was how we'd approach it. I try and find somebody in the business who you can be helpful, whether it's like being a greeter in the seminar. And I say, hey, Liam, why don't you, welcome people to the seminar tonight? Something like that. You have any ideas how to get in the business, Brian?
That's the best way. Yeah.
I think.
If you know somebody, be an assistant.
And you
learn a lot that way too.
I always think, Brian, you should always, when you're young and starting out, take learning over money, because the money in our business will follow you at some point. So if you can find a good learning experience, that's what I would do. Caesar, so SO to Dean and Brian, shout out. You're all the reason I passed all my exams. Woohoo! Thank you so much for the shout out. Victorious test taker in the house. All the exams, I call that test taking registration a hat trick. Woo! CFA, ooh, man, that's a different animal.
Oh, now you're talking major leagues there.
Greetings and salutations. Another Caesar. I don't know if I got the first Caesar pronunciation right. I apologize if I didn't. Caesar, but I know this is Caesar. Great to be back in the saddle. Right on. All right. Get fired up. Fired up. Hey, Cynthia. How are you, my friend?
Hey,
Cynthia. She did. We did in the office hour, Brian. We did 20 practice questions, and Cynthia was really doing well, particularly on option judgment questions. Like spreads with missing premiums. So, listen, I think she did much better than she sounded like she was doing, right? So I'm teasing you a little bit, Cynthia, but I can't stress this enough. This idea of fake it till you make it. Confidence is huge. So you got to, say things with confidence. Last week, Brian, I was teaching a class. I told the students to stop when I'd ask a question for chat. They would put in the right answer, but then they'd put a question mark next to it. So I told them, moving forward in our time together, every question mark should be an exclamation point.
Exactly.
I will know that you mean a question mark, but if you're going to throw an answer out there, put that with an exclamation point, right?
That's right.
We sure can, Cynthia. We sure can. I just made a little video on straight line amortization on a muni bond purchased at a premium, and I'm going to put that on a whiteboard and do it with you. Not a problem. Yeah, it's a lot of work, AXA, for sure. It's a lot. I do sometimes. My patience gets a little worn. Sometimes because I feel like saying, "Okay, it's free, right?" So, Rachel, welcome. 75 will get it done, Rachel. 75 will get it done. So, early this AM, 3 days ago, right where you need to be. Stay the course.
Good. That
Stay
sounds
the
good.
course. I think you're right where you need to be.
Yeah.
Beatrice, cost basis. First, I would say don't get too in the weeds on cost basis. I have a little short that I'll post here. 2039 cost basis. So I have a great memory aid device for you, and the memory aid device is T. And Beatrice, that's what reminds us 3 things that can happen to an option contract. This is the only 3 things that can happen to an option contract. It can be traded, it can be exercised, or it can expire. That's what can happen to an option contract. Now, be careful, Beatrice. I didn't say what can happen to a customer. I said what can happen to an option contract. Let's start with trading. So you did an opening transaction, and now you do a closing transaction. I don't know how you do it. Everybody's different on options. I use a T. I track money in and out of the account. And this is pretty simple. If you're trading an option, it's all going to be a short-term gain or loss, with one exception. I don't think you'll see it on the test. If I'm at risk for more than 12 months in a leap, that would be the only scenario in which trading an option is not short-term. But I think test prep vendors go way into the weeds on this. You should be focused on strategy and option suitability, not tax consequences. For the most part, on options with stock, the cost basis for most part follows break even. So what I mean by that is I buy an Apple 170 call for 3. I exercise, my cost basis is 173. There's exceptions to that, like a covered call. But taxation is not as important as actually strategies and suitability. Do you have any comments on taxation on options, Brian?
No, I know the publishers cover it a lot. I try not to emphasize it. You're absolutely right. It's about suitability and judgment. I've never focused a lot, except for the basics, on taxation on options.
And Brian actually thinks there's less options than a lot of us do. So I think 20. Brian thinks 10. I think, is that what you 15, think about? 15. Okay. So, but options are important. So options are important. SIE, well, we're sending you good test 5s for Thursday. All right, Series 7, yeah. Series 7, a little more options, performance opportunities, and other exams. 66, any good ways to know what return they're asking for with investment return measurements? If you scored a 79, James, you're great. I think mainly total return. I just posed a little short on total return. Pretty popular, Brian. I put only 2 ways to make money. The only 2 ways you can make money is income stream and or price appreciation.
I do the same thing.
2 things are total return. You have to do some current yield. I don't think, 2 things. I don't think you're gonna have to do much math anyways, James. But that being said, you certainly want to be able to do the current yield and working capital, that kind of stuff. I'd be surprised, like Eric and I ran into the one that was hellacious. I wouldn't get too in the weeds on some of the quantitative stuff. But I always think, James, just what I said earlier, particularly on NASA exams, you really got to read the question once for context. You got to figure out what you're being asked and what the answers being offered to you are. I was working with somebody and she said, Dean, I think I'm halfway there. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, I actually know what I'm being asked now. I'm just not quite sure what the answers being offered to me are. So I would really, on the NASA exams, particularly read once for context, see what answers are being offered to you. And then, James, the last thing I would say is when I get all done with a question, I always like to just look at it one more brief time to say, did I answer the question? Because sometimes they get baited into answering the question you thought was there instead of the question was there. I can't tell you how many times I've answered a question I felt pretty good about. I go, how did I miss that? Oh, man. I just went rolling through the question without really paying attention. So it is a giant reading test. The other thing is that's why it's so important to get a good night's rest, because your reading skills are greatly diminished when you're tired. And you got to be in top form. So practice, drill, and rehearse. Marcel, coming from Community College Territory. I'll tell Mom you said hello. She always asks about you. What were you going to say, Brian? Do you have a comment for James?
No, I was just back on James. I said that's 79. I just want to reinforce that. That's a really good score.
Yeah, James. We'd be awfully surprised
really
if you don't come here with a testing victory next week.
Sorry.
So,
yeah, that looks really
you're in good shape. You're in great shape.
Yeah.
I let Dean know last week, but wanted to let Brian know I passed my SIE. So Nathan's on to the Series 7. The journey of 3 testing victories begins with the first testing victory.
Got to do it.
Right? You can't go 3-0. You can't go 3-0 and get 1-0.
Big P.
Gavin, without knowing the customer, the answer is territorial bonds. So the only debt issues that produce tax-free interest, city, state, and federal, without knowing the customer state, it would be territorial bonds. Puerto Rico is the one they like on the test, right? Other than that, Gavin, I'd have to know where you live and what kind of bond you're going to buy. So, if I'm a resident of California and I buy a Nevada bond, California can and will tax me. The answer is GO issued by Guam. Well, I just said that, did I not? I didn't see the answer that you gave me, but Guam is a territory of the United States. County of Los Angeles, well, there's a huge difference, Gavin. Los Angeles isn't a territory of the United States government. Guam is. If you buy a Los Angeles, California bond and you live in Nevada's a bad idea. Brian, are you in Washington or Oregon, Brian? I forget where you're at. Washington,
I'm in Seattle. Yeah.
Seattle. So Washington has a state income tax. So if Brian buys that Los Angeles bond, Washington can and will tax him. Now, Gavin, if you're a resident of California, California could, but chooses not to. So Guam is the answer. Now, I don't think you're going to get Guam. They like Puerto Rico on the test, San Juan, Puerto Rico, but the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, U.S. Micronesia, American Samoa. Have I got through the whole empire? Is there anything else?
Those are the 3 you would see,
yeah,
right?
It's embarrassing when our own citizens don't understand Alaska and Hawaii are not territories. Right? Those are states.
1950.
There you go. Retake. I like it. Going back in to slay that dragon. You'll get them this time. I would tell you on retirement plans, particularly, Brittany, on the SIE fly high, I think it's mainly recognition, 59.5, 73, 529s are better than Coverdales, that kind of stuff. What do you think, Brian? Retirement plans as it relates to SIE?
Exactly. And they're all on there. We know for most exams, it's always traditional IRAs versus the Roth, differences, similarities. One thing I'd caution, get 529 out of there. It's not a retirement plan.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice that, but
they're a whole different category. Yeah.
Well, so I love it. I'm with Brian on this. So they ask you to contrast the traditional IRA with Roth. Roth has no RMD, for example, tax-free distributions. The 529 question, Brittany, is very similar, contrasting it with a Coverdale. So you should be prepared to contrast a 529 with a Coverdale, and they're prejudicial. They like the 529 better because you can put more money in it. It's more flexible than the Coverdale. So that's what I would be able to do on the SIE. Rachel's, Gavin's thanking you. By 3 questions. That hurts. So, okay. So we got some people going back into the cave to slay the dragon. So we'll be sending you some good testing vibes. SIE tips, Brittany, I will link in 2905. I have a video called Tips, Tricks, and Memory Aids for the SIE, and I will link to that video for you. Tips.
Do you have my SIE final exam explicated as well?
We do. We have on the SIE, guys, we have Brian's, which I always put at the front of the playlist because, as I told you, good correlation. But we also have a Notman Marks practice final. We have a Kaplan practice final. We got a Momentrix practice final. I think we got a whole playlist of SIE practice questions and practice tests. I want to say, Brian, there's like yours and 4 others, I think.
Wow.
So we got plenty. If you need practice By the way, you're not using practice tests. Don't stack them upon each other trying to learn like 2 or 3. No, you're doing it to get a mark. So if you need a mark of where you're at, that's when you sit down, you do a practice test, you get a score, see where you're at. So it was, I think it was Nathan told us he has a 79, and Brian and I said, man, that's a great mark. We're feeling pretty good about that. If you get a below a 70, that means you're at risk. Doesn't mean you're not going to pass, doesn't mean you're at risk. And then what you want to do is not do them on top of each other, because if you do like 3 in a day, the third one's not going to be a good mark. What you want to do is do one and then do remediation, see, what you could work on, lay some more base, and then come back. And, I think Brian and I both agree 7 to 10 days out is when you should start transitioning into doing practice tests to get those marks. So, but I'll link Brittany to that video, tips, tricks.
I had somebody ask me to do a class for a firm the day before 10 of them were going to take a test. And I said, no, I'm not going to do a class the day before.
You're crazy.
I know.
Crazy. I don't know how to do this on my booking page, Brian, but I have the same thing. Somebody will show up on, they'll book a tutoring session, and then I show up, and then I, in the notes, they don't tell me they're testing the next day, and it's just aggravating. So, Brittany, what happens with study plans is like options. They're a wasting asset. The timeline collapses on you when you have a study plan, you're executing it. And so what Brian and I are hinting at is you don't want to wait too long to do remediation, because if you wait too long, you won't have time to do it. You won't have time to do any course correction. And so that's why that 7 to 10 days is important, because that's when you can decide whether or not we need to course correction. I was tutoring a guy today, Brian, our first session. We got a couple more coming. And I said, we got to know on like Friday, if you're testing Monday, do you just need to stick the landing? Like Nathan just needs to land the plane. With a 79, he just needs to land the plane. Or do we need to go, woo, we need to do some more work here. We gotta make something happen. Does he have a PDF? He does, Josh. So Brian's video course is 100 with his quick notes. You get 20% discount. 100 is with the discount. And the PDF that has the quick notes, practice questions, and practice test. I think, Brian, what's it come in at? $40, I think?
47 something. Minus the 20%. Yeah.
Minus the 20%. So yeah. So if you just want the PDF, make sure you get it. If you just want that practice exam, that's like, I don't know why we don't make this clear. It's not on Brian, it's on me. But I'll tell you, for $20 you can get a PDF as a practice exam. And then every once in a while somebody call me and say, hey, all I got was a PDF of the practice exam. I said, well, gee, I think that's kind of what we told you. Now, good news about that though, Josh, when you watch me do it, I don't use Brian's rationales. I use my own. So what you do get is Brian's rationale and explanations, which are going to be a little different than mine. I think that could be helpful to get a different kind of voice on that. So that might make it worthwhile as well, just to get that other set. And then the other thing, Josh, Brian loves talking about his content. So every once in a while, somebody will take exception to one of Brian's questions. I usually will defend him once and then say, listen, call Brian. It's not my question, it's Brian's. He's more than happy to talk to you about it. So, give him a call. So I don't want to waste my time.
Should we talk about closing the index option, right?
Yeah. Well, and remember, I told you he is kind of a jerk on some questions, but I'm teasing, of course. But he has questions that people swear are wrong. I'm like, please, RTFQ, read the question. I don't know how to get an internship, Liam. I would, when I started out, I just looked in the paper for somebody who was noted for being a broker of note in town. His name was Jeffrey Kilpatrick, and I tracked him down. So, it's an old-fashioned kind of a cold call. So how do you get an internship? Yeah, as we said, you got to find the right person. So I think anybody would be more than happy, or would feel it's an honor if somebody came in to say, hey, I was told I need an internship. And the person who told me I need an internship said I need it from the best broker in town. And I hear that's you. Maybe not too much of a kiss ass, but I would kind of go about it that way. Is how I would do it. For Series 10, what do you consider hot topics? That 10 is such a slog. It's such a slog. I mean, I don't think there is a hot topic, David. I really don't. I mean, it's just a slog. What do you think, Brian? 80's good, by the way, David. 80 is good. So, I mean, like we said with Nathan, that's a good score. So you shouldn't be worried about that mark. You got any hot topics for the 10?
No, that's what I was saying. Right? They're notorious for those one-off questions.
Yeah.
Right? There's no topic that has like 5 or 6, like options on the Series 7. There's just a lot of 1 or 2 onesies and twosies, as you call it.
There you go. And David, I do have a course, an explication, where you can watch me do a Kaplan Series 10 practice test. And David, I'm so empathetic. I'm not usually, it's hard to be empathetic. We try, but doing through that 10, I just thought, oh my God, these poor students. I mean, I know this stuff, and it was still just a slog. Got 93, need 94 to pass. No, Josh, yeah, those high scores are really, I get it, exasperating. I'd almost rather, miss it completely than miss it by 1. But the little bump to get over the edge, we got it, right? Brian's got some free videos on YouTube. You got Brian's content on my channel. Then you got lots of other content on my channel. So, we don't have a white powder bump for you. But the bump we have is actually doing the, work. And if you're going to do the work, then we have the content for you to find those points for you for sure. So that's what I would suggest. That's what I would suggest in terms of doing that. Oscar, taking the 66 on 24s. Oscar joined me in my class. We had a good 66 class, and Oscar was a big part of that. I've got to learn, Brian, how to be more efficient on chat and linking PDFs and doing all this stuff. And oh man, the class was way ahead of me on screenshots and PDFs. And
wow,
I mean, yeah, it was awesome to have. I felt like I had some helpers. I had some helpers. So
that's
thank
cool.
you so much, Oscar, for your participation. Yeah, boy, we got to get that done for you, right? Fear and greed are great motivators, and that third time fear can be a real motivator, because remember, third time, and then you go into that holding tank for 6 months, right? So let's make sure we find you the points for sure.
Yeah.
You are welcome, Beatrice. REITs, well, the only tax benefit of a REIT is the pass-through. So you don't redeem REITs for test purposes. There's 2 versions of REITs. They're tradable REITs and non-traded REITs. And the only tax advantage I would think is they pass through 90% of the net investment income. You don't redeem them. They trade supply and demand like a stock, unless they're non-traded, in which case it's distributions and selling the properties, buying and selling properties. What do you think?
Do we know what test this is, Beatrice?
Series 7. I think Beatrice told us earlier.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's almost like the test writer is asking this about redeeming REITs.
Yeah.
I don't think there's non-tradables on Series 7. So
I haven't heard any yet.
Yeah, the answer to that would be no. They're not redeemable. They're traded on an exchange.
I think Beatrice, too, where they show up is in the answer said how partnerships are different. So how is a REIT like a mutual fund?
Right.
Professional management, diversification, ease of ownership, but it's a professional management of real estate. And then how is a REIT different from a direct participation program partnership? There isn't a flow through of income and losses, just income. I think that's pretty much it. What do you think, Brian?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And they are a very good source and suitable for some who are looking for income. That's suitability question.
There you go. There you go. Speak about taxation and options. I'd rather not. If you're long the stock and sell a call, if you cover the call with the option with my long stock, okay, well, you lost me already. If you cover the call with the option, that's a call spread. That's not a covered call. If you are covering a short call with a long call, that is a call spread. So I'm not sure you're long the stock. That's a covered call. And then you cover the call with the option with my long stock. Well, I think that's a repeat. A covered call is when I buy the stock and I sell the option. Okay, for tax purposes, that's short-term or long-term. If the option expires, it's going to be short-term. And if you exercise the contract, that would be added to your sales proceeds. Brian's put one down on the board for you. Let me give you the whole board there, Brian. Hold on. Boom. Oh, there you go. So Brian and I both practice the T.
Yeah.
I don't
think
know
he's referring to this transaction, that the call is exercised and he uses the stock he owns to cover.
Okay, there you go. Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you, Brian. So there you go. So his question is, for tax purposes, is that short-term or long-term? There is an 8-point gain there.
Yeah.
And that actually depends on, again, how long this position was in place, right?
How long we own the stock, yeah.
Yeah. So As I said before, don't get in the weeds on taxation. The test question about a covered call is, why do you do it? To generate additional income. That's the test question. Second test question. Your gain is capped. You don't participate past the strike. So the disadvantage of this is you have to give the stock a 55. So those are the questions about covered calls. So again, I'd warn you, don't get in the weeds on taxation on options. Adjustments for options writers. There's no such thing as an adjustment for the writer. If the option contract's being adjusted, it's for all parties. It's not just for one party to the contract. And the orders that are adjusted are below the market. So that would be buy limits and sell stops. Because we wouldn't want them accidentally triggered, Beatrice. I will link to a video I have on orders below the market. BLiSS, SLoBS over BLiSS.
Is she talking about stock dividends, adjusting contract?
Oh, I don't know. Beatrice, are you talking about adjusting for the stock dividend or the orders below the market? So I guess that's what we would ask. If it's a stock dividend or stock split, that's different. There's no such things as adjustment for interest holders. So I'm a little confused what she's asking. Maybe you get it right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're long or short the option. It's the contract that's being adjusted, right? And the number of contracts stays the same, and it's the strike price that is adjusted mathematically, whatever it is. I'm not going to do the math here.
Well, actually, Brian and I believe in a shortcut. I think both of us agree to this.
That's exactly right.
That you can get almost every one of these questions right by just shopping the answer set.
Yeah.
You end up with more shares at a lower price.
Yeah.
At the same aggregate exercise price. So you can almost skip the math and just shop the answer set and say, I'm looking for that. Now, I'm not quite sure, Beatrice, what you mean about the rest of this, the stock dividends. Beatrice, what I would say is next time, sign up for the live stream overtime, because there we have you have video and you can unmute, and I have a whiteboard and you can tell me exactly what you mean, and we can work that for you. So that's deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. And for some of your questions, it might be more helpful if you were in the overtime session. Good job, Brian. Brian's pretty good at this stuff. You ever think about doing this for a living?
You're funny.
How much of the economy and trade deficit is? Well, on SIE and 65, there are economics questions. So on the 65, I'm not sure if you're taking SIE or 65, but your question about trade deficit, you should definitely on both exams know the effect on the balance of trade based on a strong or weak dollar. So, if the dollar is strong, right, U.S. exports become less competitive, U.S. imports become more competitive. And so that would have a negative effect on the trade balance of trade, your point, trade deficit. If the dollar is weak, U.S. products become more competitive overseas. And that means our exporters like Boeing will sell more products. And that would have, and again, imports become less competitive, and that would have a positive effect on the balance of trade, surplus, for example. And I will link at 4243 with my lecture on economics. But that's very tested. What do you think? SIE on both 65, I think, Brian, right?
That spreads out amongst most of the exams.
Yeah, okay.
He's pretty much on it. There is a couple of those questions. You nailed it with the exports versus imports.
Yeah.
Always 65 testable.
Yeah, and then if you're 65 too in SIE, I would definitely know fiscal versus monetary policy. I would know fiscal policy is government spending and taxation controlled by Congress and the president. I would know monetary policy is the money supply controlled by the Fed. And on both those exams, I would know tools of the Fed. The one they use most common, and I would understand, is the open market operations of the Fed. And what happens to the money supply and interest rates based on what the Fed is doing. Don't fight the Fed. Don't fight the Fed. Study strategy, 2 weeks out, focused on misconcept, all concepts. I like both. I don't know if you're asking Beatrice if you either or, but I like them both. Focus on your misconcept and all. Yeah, you don't want to let, what sometimes, Beatrice, happens is people only focus on the stuff they did poorly on. And they bring that up to par, but then they get a different draw, and what they were good in falls below par. So what you've got to do, Beatrice, is overlearn. You want to be overlearn on everything. You want to be above par on everything. Par is passing. Below par is not passing, right? So I know some of you have missed the mark. I call that below par. And now what you need to do is get to par. But, I always say what we want to have is a margin of safety. And the margin of safety as a test taker comes from overlearning and those higher scores, right? Nathan had a 79. Was it James? I think James said he got an 80 on a Series 10 practice test. That's their margin of safety, depending on what draw. So I'm wishing for you, Beatrice, what I call the dream draw. Everything you studied shows up. You go, I don't know what the big deal is. But every once you get what I call the face of death draw. The draws are random. So yeah, overlearn everything. The other thing, Beatrice, I would tell everybody to do is print either the FINRA content outline or NASAA's test specifications. I would have that with me during every study session. And plus next to the item means I have it above par. I think I intellectually own this and I can move on to something else. Brian, I think, introduced this concept of a zero. I call that par. That means you're neither above or below. Then minus would be below par, and that would be things you have to work on. So that would be my recommendation. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah. 4 words. I like her strategy.
Yeah, works.
I like the weak areas and then comprehensive the second week.
Well, Patrick, I think all vendors. So Brian and I have don't get us going on a rant. But Brian and I both believe that test prep vendors have an agenda that sometimes, don't get me wrong, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, that sometimes isn't just passing the exam. Brian and I only have one agenda, it's you passing the exam. I would even throw Kaplan into this mix. All of the test prep vendors, I think, are a few points tougher than the actual exam. But again, we want margin of safety, right? So what I mean by that is a lot of people who even are at risk below 70 still pass because of what I'm telling you, because they are a few points tougher, assuming they stretch your mind and it didn't go back to the same spot. In other words, they didn't stretch your mind. You're just like, oh, I don't get it. You should be in pretty good shape. But I do think of all of the test prep vendors, I'm putting Kaplan in the mix. Pass Perfect is not only harder, but I think they sometimes do a disservice because they send you down, rabbit holes unnecessarily. There is stuff on Pass Perfect that, you're just not going to see. So Patrick, I had somebody pay me for 2 hours to do Pass Perfect margin questions with them. It's a waste of their time and resources, but her firm won't let her move on to the next unit in Pass Perfect until she passes margin. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with corporate trainers about you've got to let somebody move on because there's only 2-3 questions there, and you're keeping them from getting to the target-rich areas of options and munis and mutual funds. So, Patrick, this is a hostile audience, Brian and I, to test prep vendors. I guess if they came in here, they'd probably be walking into the lion's den, so to speak. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, ditto.
Okay, yeah, so.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Yeah.
We are being on video, right? We're going to get a letter from Bathroom. What's that?
We try to be neutral as possible, right?
Yeah, well, we're agnostic. Well, by the way, let's put it in perspective. You need paid study materials for sure. So Listen, Brian tells you he's a paid supplement. I tell you I'm a free supplement. And so we don't hold ourselves out as being your solution. We hold ourselves out as being an intermediary or bridge for you if you're using Pass Perfect or STC or Kaplan and you need a bridge. That's what we're here for. Is Brian's line, he says, what is it, your potatoes in the vodka thing?
I turn mashed potatoes into premium vodka.
So yeah, we're not hostile. I get nervous. I've had people say that they just use the channel to pass their exam. I go, well, that's not the intent. That's not something you should be doing. You're putting yourself at risk. So I don't have any issue with Pass Perfect, STC, or Kaplan as your primary study materials. But I don't think you should be monogamous. I think you should supplement. And I think particularly Pass Perfect, but you should supplement either with paid supplements like Brian's or free supplement like mine.
Or both.
Or both. There you go. You can, we're not monogamous. You can use both of us. So I love the exam.
A lot of people that use both of us, Dean.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think again, it's test prep vendors, Brian. I had one of them tell me that their instructor told them they couldn't they had the link to my channel. And this is a sign, I think, Brian, of insecurity.
That's exactly what it is.
You don't want somebody to use some resource. I'm like, that's just crazy. So, there's all kinds of resources, and you should use whatever's going to help you, Pat, make your mark, as Brian says, get your P. Brian and I have similar styles. Ken Finnan has a lot of free stuff on his Capital Advantage channel. Our styles are different, but whatever you think, any arrow you can put in your quiver, you certainly need to do so.
That's it.
It does. Remember, you have to be at risk for get a
That's
long-term
correct.
capital gain. You got to be at risk for more than 12 months, Beatrice. And then remember, as I told you, in trading options, there's no such thing as long-term. If you did an opening purchase and you do a opening purchase, closing sale, opening sale, closing purchase, period, full stop, that's short-term, no exception. You're welcome. You're welcome. Do you need to sign up for tutoring sessions? Are they live? Well, there's on Dean Tenney Tutoring .setmore.com. I don't know if I have that. There's a link on the channel that you just go to the top and there's a link and you can hit that, Brittany. There's 2 free things that are not on the channel. The channel is completely free, but Dean Tenney Tutoring.setmore.com, there are 2 free things. The live stream Zoom session that follows this evening. We're done at 6. We take a 15-minute break and then 10 of us, it's capped at 10. We reconvene in a virtual Zoom classroom for whatever else you want to talk about on your mind. I think somebody already said they wanted me to do my version of Brian's whiteboard, a Zoom whiteboard, and do some accretion or decretion. More than happy to do so. That's free. The other thing that's free is our office hours. This Tuesday, that's capped at 5. But boy, both Erica and Cynthia, they got lucky because both of them showed up. And so Erica took the first 30 minutes. And then Cynthia took the last 30 minutes, and that's an hour. Basically, your only one shows up, you get free tutoring. My tutoring is $225 an hour, so that's a great value. If Erica shows up on her own, then she gets a free hour. Brian tutors as well, and he's $90, which is such a value. So man, I keep telling him he should bump his rates. And then the other thing, Brittany, I have on the channel are classes. So as I told you, I have an advanced options class. That's $60. And then remember, that's how you get the free office hours as well. You get free repeats. It's going to be on video. And then you also get, if you had done, you can't do it now, but if you do the first 2 of the sequence, you get the 3rd one free. So lots of free stuff and paid stuff. This is my first time due to client investment recommendations, economic factors. Any tips to tackle those 2? Claudia, I just went over some economic stuff. But again, what I would suggest, I'll be linking to my economics lecture. And what I would do is the recommendations, I think you should study the investment vehicles themselves to get the recommendations right, what's suitable or not suitable. And I would get those test specifications out and just go through those economics and see what's there. Business info, right? 5 to 6 questions. So, yeah, so get the test specification and see what that is. And we can certainly bring that up to par for sure. Business info is 10Ks and, 10Qs and that kind of stuff.
Balance sheets,
working capital, current ratio. I will link 5254.
There really isn't that much econ on the 66, Dean.
Yeah.
Out of those 5 questions.
That's true. He's absolutely right. On 5254, on the replay, Claudia, I'll put a link to my balance sheet lecture. And I go through all those ratios you're going to need on your 66. So I'll put that there for you.
Yeah. And I got a free balance sheet video.
I'll link to Brian's as well. So when Brian has some free stuff on his YouTube channel, check it out. And then what I do when Brian tells me he has a free one, I put that in there too. So I'll link to his free one too.
Discounted cash flow for the 66 and 65.
Yeah. Oh, he just put up one. Yeah, that's right, Claudia. I'll link to that one, Brian. I'll link to Brian's latest video that's free on discounted cash flow. It's excellent. So I'll link to that one for you. And then I'm trying to talk Brian into doing more free stuff. I think we're getting him into the freemium model, right? We got to sell enough of his stuff that he'll still go on do some free stuff, right?
Exactly.
More nervous for this test than the 7. It's weird, Brian. People, it is weird. Some people think the 7 is easier than 66, vice versa. So, 2 weeks out, focused on miss. I think we did that one already, didn't we? Oh, would love your thoughts. I think this follows up on Brittany's question. Oh, yeah, we like that. I think that was Brittany, and we said, yeah. Brian said he liked it.
That was good.
That was his comment. It's either stay the course or change course, right? So you need to know whether you're in the stay the course mode, and that means your study plan's working, your scores reflect success. Then you just need to do what you're doing, rinse and repeat. But you have to do at some point, some people wait too long to get a mark and know whether they're on track, right? They wait too long to get like Nathan or James to get a score and say, okay, like Brian, I say, you just got to stick the landing. So
within those 2 weeks, there's got to be a couple of practice finals to identify the weak areas, right?
That's right. And if you're using Kaplan has a performance tracker, which is excellent. because the performance tracker will help you identify
That's
those
right.
areas you're weak, and then you can create custom quizzes on those. So.
That's right.
Simple Mama brought Brian's full course. All right. I hope
Thank
you use
you.
the discount code. Did you get 20% off or did you pay full retail?
Well, we thank you either way.
Yeah, Brian. Well, no, he thanks you even more.
That's right.
All right. Kudos. Investment advisor representative. Woohoo.
IAR.
I don't know, Beatrice, what the age. I think he said he's still in high school. I think our person was looking for an internship. I'm not sure that those kind of internships are available at Schwab and Raymond James.
I think he said he just turned 18. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, any internship you can get. And then Beatrice is right. There's all kinds of independent people. And, I listen, there's a lot of old dudes like Dean that if I had a younger person come in and tell me they're interested in the securities industry and, what could they do to learn? And, you can take your SIE exam and I would take that. That shows some, motivation. So you can certainly take that without sponsorship. So listen, if I was in my office and some young man or young woman came in and said they took their SIE and they're interested in our industry and could they come in the afternoons to learn, I'd say, absolutely. My interns, I had an intern named Nate. And I paid him because he wanted to volunteer to learn. And I said, Nate, I don't like volunteers. I'm not into the volunteer business, so I will pay you to be my intern. His mom worked at Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs wouldn't let him have an internship because of nepotism policies at Goldman. So I said, her May is her name. I said, well, May, send it on me. I'll take him on as a intern. And he used to drive me nuts because he would be like late every day. And I think he thinks because he's an intern that, it doesn't matter. I said, Nate, I want you to be on time. He goes, oh, I just keep missing that last part. I said, well, then go for the earlier part. If you're missing it, shoot for the first one. Oh, that hurts, Sasha. That hurts. Past perfect. Yeah. There you go. Well, new set, Sasha, new set of questions. Get the Kaplan Q Bank with my Guru 10 discount code at checkout at $60, about $60. So get the Kaplan Q Bank. It's well worth the $60. I think the two best paid supplements are the Kaplan Q Bank and Brian's Test Key. So with you get all his videos, you get the practice exam, you get the PDF, and then you got the Kaplan Q Bank. I think you're in pretty good shape in terms of paid supplements on that investment. Not a time to be frugal, by the way. Not a time to be frugal. I know some people don't have the resources. My channel's free, so you don't have any resources there. But if you have the resources, no sense being frugal, man. Go for it. Or whatever you think can be helpful to you, get it.
Sasha, you're absolutely right. You need those supplements. The Kaplan Q Bank is probably one of the best out there. And with Dean's videos and my video course, if you choose to pay for it, we can get you that extra point, no doubt.
That's right. And Sasha, the other thing that's great about Brian's, we've talked about this on my YouTube channel. I try and help you with editorial decisions. I have a playlist, but there's 500 and something videos there. So I can't tell you how many people say, well, what videos I need to watch? If you buy Brian's videos, he's made that editorial, it's curated. So in other words, the videos match the exam, no more, no less than to be a judge, to be a bridge to that. Mine, oh my God, there's 500 something videos. Where do I start? So that's combination is good as well, right? Because if you get Brian's videos, you're on the broad avenues and highways of the information, and you can, confirm that with your past perfect or whatever it is. Then you got the Kaplan Q Bank, and then you got, 500 videos from Dean that you can use to plug any kind of a gap that you may have that you want to plug.
You came to the right place. Let's put it that way.
You did. Work that isn't so past perfect. Actually, I can say that. Yeah, I think they do too much. I think past perfect they're good. If you can pass their practice tests, like I say, I'm surprised you got those scores and didn't make your mark because their tests are tougher. But that's my thing. I told you that they're actually, they don't correlate as well, because remember, it would be bad if you barely passed, you didn't pass and you passed the test, or vice versa. I mean, correlation should be both directions, right? So $60, there you go. And yeah, it's 33,000 plus. So I think Rachel's 60. I want to say 60, give or take a couple bucks, I think. Yeah, well, stock dividends on options. We're not. Yeah, there you go. So Brian, he listens better than Dean or reads better.
Those option contracts get
Yeah, there
adjusted.
you go.
You know, I haven't heard that, but I think it's still on the test. But you know, maybe one.
Listen, if you tell me you missed the mark because you couldn't adjust an option contract, I would say
Exactly right.
you know you got bigger problems. I'll tell you. I don't know if Brian has a video, but I'll tell you, Knopman Marks has a very good video on adjusting for option contracts, and I will link to that at 5952.
Yeah, it's part of my options modules in my video.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have anything free on that?
No, I don't. I guess I could.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we're getting ready for our drawing. Qualified means you're using pre-tax money, Marco. Non-qualified means you're using after-tax money. That's very testable. You should know that variable annuities are non-qualified accounts, so very testable.
Pre-tax.
Nat, I passed the 7. You're welcome. Got your P, so onto the 6. I'm assuming that says 63 or 66. There you go. I have people watch all my videos. I got to come up with a coffee cup or something to give them. All of Brian's, because Brian's is a complete course. So I don't know how many hours that is, but it's a complete course. Mine, it would take you literally 500 hours to watch. And you don't have the time to watch all my videos. There you go. Dream draw for everybody. I can do that, David. Are you joining us for the overtime? And what exam are you in my STC study guide? I don't know. I will write that down and then let me know if that's a Kaplan ID number. If it's not a Kaplan ID number, you need to cut and paste it and send it to me. I'll give you my email in just a minute. If it's a STC, you got to cut and paste. If it's just a Kaplan, I also, David, need to know what exam you're taking. Is this a QID from Series 6 or 7 or SIE or whatever? Okay, we're getting ready here for our drawing. We're a little over. How do you determine memorizing test bank? Well, you're not going to memorize 3,600 Kaplan questions. So, but you know, again, it's a champagne problem. The STC Q bank is not as deep as Kaplan. So, but I worry about that problem when you get there. Yeah, I've been talking about forming a support group. Okay, we need to get to the drawing. Let's get to our drawing. And let's put, boom, let me put in our catchword for today. And remember, the drawing today is going to be for the advanced options class. And I'll come back and I'll finish up any things you have. Let me present here. I got to get this, share screen. Boom. Okay. Okay, so if you want to participate in the drawing, Dream Draw is the thing for the drawing tonight. The drawing is for the advanced options class. You can give that to somebody in your firm if you'd like. Oh, great. Series 10. I love it. And it's Kaplan. So, oh, great. I will do that for you. I'll make a video. I'll post it. I don't know if you're a member of our Reddit, but I'll post it on the channel and I'll post it on the YouTube channel and our Series 10 Reddit. Okay, any more entries? Remember, again, even if you're not taking this, this would be appropriate as well for somebody who's taking the 4 or the 9. So even if you're not taking the 7, 4, or 9, if you win, you can give it to somebody who is taking the 4, the 9, or 10. All right, here we go. Dream Draw. The draw for the Dream Draw. All right, well, there you go. The winner, Vassell. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. So as you see there, there is my email, deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. So just claim, say, Dean, I'm the winner, and I will send you the Zoom link to that class. So again, you are the winner. All right, let me get rid of that. There's Brian and I think we had a couple comments. I'll see the rest of you at 6:15 on the live stream overtime, and I just want to see if we missed any comments here, Brian. In case a mutual fund internally shares, didn't realize the gains who's responsible for the tax bill. I'm not sure. The tax bill, remember, capital gains distributions are taxable to the mutual fund shareholder, Brian. They get passed through.
Right.
Can you have a past perfect reset is new? I'm not sure about that. I think we got everybody. The internships, Petrus says at Schwab or for college students. Great. I haven't done anything with Chat GPT, so I'm totally ignorant on how that might affect anything. All right. Well, as I say, remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And you, Brian, say?
Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right. We will see you next Tuesday, and I'll see some of you in about 15 minutes. Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care.